I'm sitting here today with Alan Phillips, the well-known and extremely reputable local architect, to talk about Brighton, his vision for Brighton, the future, and architecture in general. Alan, somebody buys a house or a flat, barn, whatever it might be. What at the moment is what I would call flavour of the month as far as interiors are concerned? What are you looking to create?
Oh, it's not historical any longer, no matter what the envelope, in a way. I mean, we're doing Grade 1 listed houses where we're stripping everything down and making quite minimalist interiors. Everything has to be very chic, very clean, very precise. We're doing 2 barn conversions where, surprisingly, the clients want exactly the same thing. The interior is very simple and very elegant and very carefully designed, whereas the envelope, the old building, basically plays out its own game and is quite wonderful and historical and fancy, and sort of ne'er the twain shall meet, really. That seems to be what clients are aspiring to at the moment.
So they're looking for spaces.
Yeah, they're looking for spaces rather than rooms. I think we used to do an architecture of rooms, and each room had a door, and you opened the door to go into the room, and you did whatever inside it and then left. Now it's to do with interlocking spaces. Absolutely right. That's exactly the word. It's spaces and places.
Yes.
And voids and galleries and spaces overlocking and overlapping each other. I think that's very much what people seem to want us to do. And also in the mass house market, some of our clients are looking for flats that are now masonettes that overlap like that, so that you get a double volume void over the living room. It's all to do with the elegance of space.
Lots of glass.
And lots of glass.
And light.
And light. Well, light's free. It's about the only thing that's free in architecture. So we always say that to our clients. And one thing you don't have to buy is light. So if you can make a big window, why not do it rather than a small window?
Absolutely.
And now that we've got very sophisticated glass, which can prevent the same heat loss as a double cavity brick wall used to be able to do, then putting large windows in can give you double benefits.
And obviously that sits well with the planners. I'm talking about the glass and because obviously when you plan your drawings on new build and so on, one's very aware of overlooking and the right of light with neighbours and so on. Are you finding that you're having to put sort of obscure glass in quite often and things, or do you find ways around that?
The planners, I think, are aware of. The planners are very, very, very conscious, especially the members. Not so much maybe the planning officers, but the members are very concerned to protect the citizens of Brighton from overlooking loss of privacy, loss of light, and so on. And they are direct issues that conflict with putting in your big window, of course. At the same time, they're keen that new architecture reflects that whole notion of seaside fun and the fun of the seaside. What we've started doing is reintroducing things like the conservatory, along not Brunswick, Chichester Terrace.
Yes.
You've got those wonderful, wonderful Georgian houses. On the first floor, you've got a sun parlour.
Yep.
On the first floor, you've got a sun parlour, and the sun parlour has timber shutters on the inside, so you can dress it or undress it depending on the seasons.
Yes.
And a new scheme that we're doing in Rodine has it. We've made reference to that so that you have transparency, but at the same time you can bring a screen over and create privacy. And the officers are certainly going for that because it's all the fun of the fair. And Embassy Court's the same, where you have sun parlours and then you get passive solar gain inside the sun parlours, then it sort of feeds into the other rooms. But if I threw the question back to you, I mean, are those attitudes that I'm describing as a contemporary architecture building in a sort of new city and a new century, things that you find
absolutely
able to sell well?
Absolutely. I used the phrase earlier, flavour of the month. That they certainly are at the moment, and the market this year has started jolly well, and we've got a lot of new build, a lot of new schemes, a number of which, as you know, are yours, and they are selling, and that's exactly what people are looking for at the moment.
But people coming into Brighton from outlying areas or into Brighton from London, They see the city as being chic, don't they?
Yes, they do.
It's sort of ratfish on the one end. It's slightly rough around the edges and always has been. But there's this idea that Brighton has positioned itself as the sort of city of chic, the great city by the sea. Is that an advantage to you in terms of being able to... I mean, can you put that brand of the city on the top of the individual houses and use that as a marketing tool?
Yes, you can. And sort of just while we're talking, there's an area that is known as Millionaires Row, which is down on the Esplanade behind the lagoon, where one or two celebrities live. And those are something around the mid-1800s, mid-19th century. And certainly those are doing exactly what you've said. They literally have kept out the outer skin, and from there on have taken everything out, including floors, the whole lot, and just started from scratch, doing exactly what you're saying. And it works jolly well. You don't just do Brighton and Hove. Are the Brighton planners, you work well with them, I know that, but are they very different to planners in sort of London, the outskirts of London, or do they all sort of have the same ideas and aspirations?
Well, they're different amongst themselves, interestingly. They're different amongst themselves. There is obviously one book that binds them all called the Brighton and Hove Plan, which is the policy document.
Which relates just to Brighton and Hove?
Which relates just to Brighton and Hove. And very simply, if you make a planning application that complies with policy, you'll get consent, and if you don't, you won't.
Right.
Really, it should be as simple as that. But the members at Brighton and Hove, when asked to vote on certain projects that have been recommended to grant by the officers, often decide against the officers' recommendations because they're protecting their constituents' position and they have a democratic right to do that. Brighton and Hove, unlike other councils, do require a huge amount of information with every planning application. So they're very, very particular about you have to produce sustainability reports, an eco report, a traffic report, a sunlight and daylight study, and so on and so forth. Now, we're doing a large scheme in Haywards Heath, which I think you're involved with.
Yes.
Where we make the planning application and that is it. And we say to them, well, do you want a design statement? No. Do you want a sustainability statement? No. Do you want a traffic statement? No. Do you want an eco-home statement? No. Do you want a lifetime home statement? No. So it makes our life relatively very simple. So Brighton is very demanding in the information it gives, but then very brave in the decisions it hands out for the sort of work that we do.
Absolutely. Going to the Haywards Heath scheme, but they'll want that information eventually, will they?
No.
They won't?
No.
So the eco and everything, the sustainability that we all know about...
They haven't quite caught up.
They haven't caught up.
They haven't caught up with the level of information that Brighton requires. Brighton are incredibly sophisticated. But Brighton also know that you can't... that it's surrounded by fields, isn't it, on one side, it's the Downs, and it's surrounded by water on the other, which is the Channel. And therefore it's soon going to fill up. And if it's going to fill up, they want it to fill up with good work, not bad work. And if it's going to fill up, they want it to fill up with relatively high-density developments. And if that's going to be the case, then the standard of architecture has got to be commensurately higher, so that if I'm going to hand you 300 buildings on a site that 10 years ago could only have taken 50, because I'm building at a much denser level, then Brighton will say, well, we allow you to do that, so long as we get in return a very distinctive, beautifully designed building. So a lot of architecture has to go into it. And that's why many developers who might have actually just used in-house architects before to build buildings are coming to practices like ours, because they can't get from their in-house people those landmark buildings of distinction that will give them the density.